Hey guys, this is Ben from Road to VR, and we are here at FanFest 2015, and the EVE Valkyrie team has just kind of given us a updated look at the latest from their first VR game. I have Erich here, who is a developer on the game. Erich, can you tell me how long you've been working on the game and what you do?
Sure, I'm one of the game designers on EVE Valkyrie, and I've been working on it for about 2 years now. And I'm the guy who helps with the core design of the game, so the ships, the game modes, the maps, sort of the progression, all that kind of stuff. So all the core design stuff pretty much goes through me. Okay.
And today we saw a kind of fresh gameplay video, and I was particularly interested to see that, you know, you have fans here from across the world that are largely here for EVE Online, which is an MMO. It's a strategic, slow third-person spaceship game. And then you have EVE Online, or I'm sorry, then you have EVE Valkyrie, which is a first-person, high-speed VR dogfighting game. Totally different, and yet the fans here, as far as I saw, had a tremendous reaction to the gameplay video.
Yeah.
Do you think that that these are people who just love the EVE universe so much that they kind of want to play any game, or how do you see them crossing the gap between these two very different games?
I think it's a bit of both. You know, like you're saying, it's Valkyrie is that dogfighting experience that people want, and it's a nice sort of, it's different lore for them. It's a new story. Mm-hmm. I mean, they know about Raum and like a little bit of her story, and she is a prominent character in the EVE universe. But sort of bringing that to life and sort of living that Battlestar Galactica sort of fantasy, that Star Wars dogfighting fantasy. You know, like we showed in the video, you've got these big ships that all the EVE players like to play, but I'm sure they would still love to, you know, do that Battlestar Galactica kind of flying through and being sort of the Death Star run as such from Star Wars. And I think, you know, we can hopefully look to merge that in the future.
Yeah, the sense that I got was almost like EVE Valkyrie is putting into reality something, kind of an experience that people had always imagined, you know, being in the little ship, flying out of a giant ship, and going and being part of a big battle. And, you know, when the gameplay video showed the takeoff sequence, people were like blown away.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you are really kind of capturing that for players?
I think so. I mean, you know, when you first play it and you're in the tunnel, you don't really know what to expect if you first played it, and it's that sort of quite enclosed and sort of, okay, what's going on, that anticipation. It's all dark. Yeah, it's all dark, and your systems are lighting up, and okay, and then you're just catapulted. There's no warning, or there's a warning, but there's no sort of what's going to happen, and the doors open, and you go out, and it's like people just go silent, and it's just that you're in this big entity of space. You know, you are like an ant essentially, and it's just an amazing experience.
And it's clear to me that you guys have spent a lot of time on that particular sequence, because I've seen it in various stages of development, and it's now kind of more polished than ever. Aside from that aspect, which is quite improved from the last time I saw it, what is new with what we're seeing now versus kind of the last time that we saw EVE Valkyrie?
Sure. So you've got a new map. So you've got the map of Necropolis, which is when you've seen the trailer, which was shown at FanFest, which will probably know on YouTube. It's the aftermath of that battle. So you get to fly around the battle that was taking place there, and you get to sort of be part of what was that experience. We've also got a new game mode, which is Control, or I think it's called Attrition. In-house we called it Control. And that is sort of like a capture-based sort of game mode, but the idea is when you capture these points, you can capture them with drones, so we don't take away from the dogfighting. It sort of helps boost your score. So it's still a sort of a dogfight, a team-based deathmatch, but if you sort of take these points and capture them and hold them, you get multipliers to your score. So it's ×1, ×2, ×3.
And for the first time, we've seen, or at least been able to play, a second ship type.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, sure. So we've now got a new ship type called the Spectre, which is our heavy class of ship, and the main thinking behind that is to pair with our game mode, and it's an area control ship. And we sort of decided that when we were developing, we want all our ships to have that different feel, that different kind of flavour. So what we decided to do is take the sort of the head tracking and take it away from the secondary fire, which on the Wraith is the missiles, and put it on the primary fire, which is the flight cannon. So now you move around and you use your guns, and you essentially aim the flight cannon with the head tracking. And then with it being sort of a slower, sort of more robust ship, we've also added the micro warp drive, and this is essentially like a jump. So you hold it for it charges up, and then you warp and you've got about, I think it's about 4 seconds before it automatically cuts out, but you can cut it out whenever you want, and it's to allow you to get from point to point or key strategic locations in the map without sort of being left behind, so you can go with your teammates. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, you have what we call the EMS. So this acts similar to the race countermeasures. If you just press it, it's just a countermeasure against missiles, but if you pair it while firing a flat cannon, it turns the rounds into EMS rounds or EMP rounds, which when they hit an enemy, if you stack the hits correctly, it will stun them and it will immobile them for about 4 seconds. And this also applies with partial hits as well, but partial hits take more.
Okay, and we know so far it's been said there will be 3 ships. Are you talking at all about the last one?
Unfortunately, at the moment, we haven't really got much more to say about the third one, other than it's in development.
Okay. Is there going to be 3 total at launch?
We're guaranteed 3, but we're looking to maybe add more.
Okay. And then, is there going to be a ship progression kind of system with upgrades and that sort of thing?
Sure, definitely. So each ship class is going to have its own branch of progression. So if we take the Wraith, for example, the base fighter, you will start in that. And then you can unlock what we call upgrades or loadouts. And upgrades are basically just like stat increases. So, you might get like more shield, more health, more firepower, more DPS, that kind of thing. And then loadouts are new ships based on the previous ship. So if we take the heavy fighter tree, for example, or the heavy fighter branch in the fighter tree, you would progress along the loadouts and upgrades till you get to the heavy. And then if you went the heavy route, that fighter would start to feel like a heavy. Mm-hmm. So it would never be a heavy, and it would never be, say, like for like, but you'd end up getting more tanky at the cost of, say, speed. Your shield regeneration might be lower, but you'd have a lot more hull, for example. Mm-hmm. Or we might change out the Gatling guns and put in sort of blasters, which is like the medium between the Gatling and the flat cannon.
Okay, so as I'm visualizing this, I'm thinking you have 3 primary roles, and then with the specializations, you can kind of come into the middle between those roles. Is that how you're thinking of it?
That's exactly correct, yeah.
Okay. And in terms of weapons, the combination of the Spectre's shield and the guns firing through it, actually changing it, that was pretty new, something that I haven't really seen before. That was interesting. Do you guys have other ideas about how you're going to do kind of something a little bit more unique than just the typical lock-on missiles and machine guns?
We haven't got any concrete ideas that I can talk to you about at the moment. There is quite a few sort of stuff on the drawing board back in Newcastle, but we definitely want to carry on experimenting. We don't want to just stick with this sort of the basic types of what you know. We want to sort of more combo weapons and just make it more sort of easy to learn but hard to master. We want it to have some more longevity. So any player should be able to pick up and play and have a good experience. Mm-hmm. But like say the EMS, it's that extra level of sort of detail that you can sort of get better with and sort of learn the game.
And the game's been announced for the Oculus Rift and Morpheus. Is it going to be VR only?
Yes.
Okay, so it's you'll need to have some VR headset to play it.
Yep, Oculus on the PC and Morpheus on the PS4.
Okay. And are you going to launch on whichever platform kind of comes first? We know now that Sony is going to be Q2 2016. Oculus doesn't have a date yet. Are you guys, do you think that you'll be ready to launch by the time Morpheus comes out?
Yes, when the hardware's ready, we'll be ready.
Okay. And so you said you're 2 years into development. Where do you feel like you are at this stage? I mean, you're still waiting, of course, for the headsets, but are you at a polish point, or are you still adding a lot more features?
We're sort of a mixture of both. I mean, we do a list of features, we polish them up, ready to ship, and then we're waiting for the hardware, so we'll start adding features, polishing them up. So it's sort of like a gradual sort of climb.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the game as a whole goes, mm-hmm. we've seen kind of the multiplayer component. Is there going to be a campaign?
There's not going to be a it's a single player experience. There's going to be the 3 tutorials. So we have the sort of 3 chronicles of Rand's life, or sort of big events in her life. So you saw the ambush mission, which was shown in the video, and then there'll be one for when she's Ghoster and one for when she's Valkyrie. And those will be act as our sort of offline tutorials. Mm-hmm. But we wanted them to be more interactive, playable tutorials rather than just sort of a gym or sort of a generic sort of VR tutorial. Yeah.
And we've seen the game played with bots. Are you going to be able to, if you can't get online for some reason, be able to jump into basically a multiplayer match but with computer-controlled characters?
Yes, we are looking to offer sort of an offline experience but not a campaign. Mm-hmm. So stuff like essentially a practice mode against bots.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys been experimenting with the latest Morpheus Prototype? Do you have your hands on that yet?
They just announced it at GDC, so we're looking to get stuff.
Okay. And as far as the headset is concerned, obviously it's a very different kind of design approach, and you guys have surely been learning as you go along. There are things you do and work great, and there's things that you don't do. Are there any that stick out to you during development?
So it's quite yeah. It's really funny how what you think will work it will work, but it never does. I mean, I know that's probably a very cliche thing to say. I mean, the UI is a great example.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what you choose to take with you when you're looking. So obviously, as you move your head, we can't take everything with you, because if we take everything with you, it doesn't work, and you lose that immersion. Whereas like the crosshair, for example, is about the only thing you can really take with you when you're in the cockpit. We tried experimenting for a while with like health and shields and all that, so the player would always know what state his ship would be in. But the more and more stuff we sort of gradually added, the less and less sort of coherent it became, and it was just a mess, essentially.
Do you have any firm plans about how the game will actually be released? Is it going to be kind of a one-time purchase, a subscription thing, a freemium thing?
At the moment, that's up to the business guys. I mean, we're just solely with the development at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And between the different headsets that you've tried on Morpheus and the Crescent Bay, do you see any significant difference between the gameplay, or is it just pretty much the same?
Just a better offering, better head tracking, better motion tracking, and just better all-around graphics and resolution. It's only going to make Valkyrie better.
Yeah. And so when it's running on PlayStation 4, you don't have quite the processing power as you do in a computer running a Titan X, as we've seen Valkyrie running today. Is it a challenge to still hit the necessary frame rate on the PS4?
No, we've got some great guys back at HQ that are just making it all run smoothly.
Mm-hmm. And would you say it's kind of graphically noticeable which is which?
No, not really. I haven't noticed any difference working on both. I mean, both sets of hardware are pretty good.
Okay. And Crescent Bay, we're seeing Valkyrie run on this show for the first time. What was your kind of initial reaction to seeing it in there?
It's just another step up. You know, we had the DK1 from the DK2. It's kind of like, for me, it was the same sort of thing. You know, we can do more. We can sort of, if you've noticed playing like the UI and stuff, we can make it a lot crisper. We can show you more of those like little details that help immerse you in the cockpit. You know, there's like, I guess, a little bits of fluff, a little bit sort of like extra details, and we can just make it just pushes our graphics better and makes it look better.
Yeah. And obviously, there's kind of a tournament mentality happening here at FanFest. Of course, you have the Valkyrie tournament. Are you aiming this to be, I mean, it's a very easy game to start into, but are you looking for it to become something that's highly competitive, especially in the online space?
But yeah, we'd love to make it, we want it to be an esports game. We'd love to, be on Twitch and everything like that. So we still want to be very accessible, so it's, we want to sort of have that easy to learn, hard to master sort of mentality, so you can, so there is enough depth for you to become very, very skilled, but, it's like my mum picking up, say, for example, for the first time, she can still get what's going on.
Mm-hmm. That would be impressive. I don't think my mom would get it.
yeah. Mum, if you're watching, please.
I guess she'd know that she was in a ship, but beyond that, not the controller. There's been this long-running idea in the EVE universe of, let's have a fully interconnected universe. So, of course, we have EVE Online, there's Dust, and there's EVE Valkyrie, and they all share a thematic universe, but they're largely not connected mechanically. Is there a path going forward where the games will be influencing each other?
I mean, we have discussions about this sort of stuff, quite a lot. But at the moment, we're solely focused on making the best multiplayer VR game. Okay. But in the future, who knows?
Mm-hmm. So, but at the moment, it's not really kind of a direct design consideration.
No, unfortunately, not at the moment. No, we are solely wanting to focus sort of on our second-to-second, minute-to-minute gameplay and offer the fans the best multiplayer VR experience.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're now working on EVE Valkyrie, of course, which is a very different game and a separate team from the EVE Online team. But is there talks within CCP to bring some sort of VR experience to EVE Online itself?
I don't actually know. I think you'd have to speak to the EVE guys about that one.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for your time.
No
really
worries.
appreciate
Thank you, man. Have a good day.
You too.